At Mr. Dean's house in the village of Vinhoa, the atmosphere of the death anniversary celebration was lively and bustling. Mr. 7 and Mr. 3 sat at the dining table, surrounded by family and friends. The table was laden with many traditional dishes like braised pork with eggs, sour fish soup, and sizzling pancakes. Mr. 7, picking up a piece of braised pork, said, "This dish is best eaten with sticky rice, truly delicious." Mr. 3 nodded, pulling the braised fish closer to himself. "This braised fish is sweet with a hint of spicy chili from the Mekong Delta, perfect." With the meal finished, everyone at the celebration raised their glasses, toasting together. As they chatted and joked, they also shared fond memories of Ong Trang, Mr. Dean's grandfather. Though still early, the atmosphere became warm, filled with family affection. Mr. 7 and Mr. 3 continued to raise their wine glasses, toasting with the uncles and elders around them. The mood was truly vibrant, noisy, and equally cozy. The sound of traditional folk music, Don Ka Tai Tu, rang out, and everyone joined in singing, creating a joyful and loving atmosphere. Songs like De Ko Hoi Lang, Hang Mak Tu, and Bai Ka Dat Phuong Nam echoed, bringing back distant memories for everyone present. In the warm atmosphere of the death anniversary, Mr. 7 and Mr. 3 chatted with the neighbors. A neighbor asked, "Hello, brothers, how's your harvest this year, Mr. 7? Did you get a good yield?" Mr. 7 replied cheerfully, "This year's okay, but it's been so sunny we've had to water a lot. How about you, Mr. 3? Mr. 3 responded, "This year wasn't bad either, but there have been a lot of pests lately, so we need to be careful." Another neighbor, carrying a plate of glass noodles, chimed in, "I remember last time Mr. 3 called everyone out to the fields, and it took half a day to finish, right?" Mr. 7 recalled and laughed heartily. "Exactly. If Mr. 3 works the fields, he has to call the whole village." Mr. 3's face stiffened slightly, but he quickly tried to defend himself. "It's faster when everyone works together. Working alone is exhausting." Mr. 8, sitting close to Mr. 3 and picking at some noodles, turned and said, "I'm going to say something unrelated." But no one was surprised, as that was Mr. 8's usual nature. Everyone just chuckled softly. "You know, young men, these death anniversaries are what make things fun. Next time, I'll bring some dried fish for a drinking session." Mr. 7 smiled faintly and replied as if he didn't care if the story was related or not. "That's great. Nothing beats having more snacks for drinks." Next came an indispensable part of any death anniversary in the village, especially with Mr. 8 present, telling jokes to entertain everyone. Mr. 8, with his humorous personality, stood up amidst the celebration, grinned, and began his story. "Let me tell you guys one. Once I went to the market and saw a farmer selling watermelons. I asked, 'Uncle, is this watermelon sweet?' He replied, 'Very sweet, try it.' So I picked one up, took a bite, and my face immediately stiffened. But I pretended to be calm, not wanting to upset him. Then I laughed and said, 'Hey, I said it was sweet, not that it was ripe.' Everyone burst into laughter. Mr. 8 continued, 'Another time I took my grandson out to play and he asked, 'Grandpa, why are there so many stars in the sky?' I told him, 'Because at night, Grandpa has a bright lamp running, it has to be on for it to shine.' He looked at me, squinted, and said, 'Grandpa, turn off the light so it can get brighter?' Despite the jokes not being particularly profound, everyone at the celebration erupted in laughter, a way to show respect to the storyteller. The atmosphere became even more joyous. The next morning, Mr. 3 went to the fields as usual. Today was a busy day for him and everyone in the village, as it was harvest season. Mr. 3 and the others were resting in the lush green rice fields, enjoying the warm sunshine. They chatted and joked, sharing funny stories about their daily lives and events from the previous harvest. Auntie Mai sat next to Mr. 3, fanning herself with a conical hat to ward off the midday heat. She said to Mr. 3 in a slightly absent-minded tone, "Mr. 3, last harvest, we got a really good yield, a lot of rice, didn't we?" Mr. 3 replied with a cheerful smile, "That's right, Auntie, have you forgot? It rained exactly when we needed it, and your family finished harvesting a whole month early, remember?" Auntie Mai laughed as if replaying the film of memories from the previous season. "Oh, it was so lucky. I felt like everything went smoothly last year. The rice sold at a high price, and we even had a few kittens taking care of the rats. Your family even bought more land to celebrate." The two continued to chat, reminiscing about happy memories and planning for the new harvest. Their laughter echoed in the peaceful space, blending with the sounds of grass, trees, and birds. Mr. 3 occasionally pointed to the rice plants, proudly boasting about how beautiful and fragrant this season's rice was. They continued to share their experiences in rice farming, discussing the weather, cultivation techniques, and predictions for the new crop. The atmosphere was intimate and warm, reflecting the strong bond among the farmers. In the afternoon, after everyone had left, only Mr. Nam Vui was left, tidying up and getting ready to go home. Suddenly, Mr. 3 invited Mr. Nam to drain the ditch by the field. "Mr. Nam, are you still up for it? Gosh, I've been working since morning, tending to the cattle, aren't you tired? I'm going home now." "Wait, just now I heard the sound of fish splashing over by that ditch. I'm sure it's snakehead fish, Mr. Nam. How about we go drain that ditch? Who knows, we might catch a lot of fish and earn some extra money selling them at the market." Hearing that, Mr. Nam seemed to forget his fatigue immediately. He agreed, and both of them jumped into the ditch to drain it and find fish. It wasn't just a few, but an unbelievably large number, over a dozen huge snakehead fish, making everyone burst out laughing with delight. After sharing their catch, Mr. 3 walked home, passing by Mr. 7's house. A while later, around 5 p.m., Mr. 3's voice echoed from Mr. 7's yard, calling out as if he had something incredibly urgent to share. "7, 7, are you home, 7? From inside the house, Mr. 7, who was engrossed in washing rice to cook dinner, saw his neighbor, Mr. 3, standing in the yard, waving his hand inside the pot of rice, then shaking it clean. Mr. 7 ran out to the yard, asking with surprise, "Oh, Mr. 3, why are you here? Aren't you in the fields? What's wrong? Is something urgent?" His neighbor, Mr. 3, gave a light-hearted reply that left Mr. 7 frozen. "Oh, nothing much. I was just wondering if you've had dinner yet. Because earlier, when I was in the field, I caught a few big snakehead fish. I was just passing by and thought I'd drop some off for you and your dad, Uncle Nam. I heard Uncle Nam hasn't been feeling well these past few days." As he spoke, he held 3 large kilogram-heavy snakehead fish, placed them in a basket, and cheerfully presented them to Mr. 7. "Here, take these and make some porridge for Uncle Nam. That way he'll recover faster." "Goodness, really? Thank you so much, Mr. 3. Mr. 3 looked at Mr. 7 with a joyful gaze. "Wait, it's nothing. We've known each other for ages, why be so formal now? Go get something to put them in. Seriously, I'll give you a few more. I don't know what these fish eat, but each one is so plump and big." Hearing this, Mr. 3 quickly ran inside to get a bamboo basket. Because he had been chatting with Mr. 7, he hadn't paid attention to the fish Mr. 7 was holding. But now, as he received the fish from Mr. 7's hands, Mr. 3 was startled. "Goodness gracious, what kind of snakehead fish are these? They're enormous. I've never seen anything like them before. Where did you catch these, 7? "Oh, this afternoon, after finishing work, I heard splashing in the pond by the field. I knew there were fish there, so I invited Mr. Nam Vui to come with me. And now, look, we caught so many fish. Each one is huge, like a small pig." Mr. 3 pondered for a moment, as if remembering something, then frowned and asked Mr. 7, "Wait, isn't that ditch right next to Mr. Utt's garden? And isn't that garden abandoned by Mr. Utt for ages? I haven't seen anyone tend to it. If you secretly drained it like that, he'll scold you endlessly. Even if it's abandoned, it's still someone else's garden." "Oh, really? I thought that garden had been abandoned for a long time, like a wilderness. Is it Mr. Utt's?" "Well, just pretend I didn't know. I didn't mean anything by it," Mr. 7 continued. "But seriously, that ditch had so many huge snakehead fish. It would be such a waste not to catch them for a drinking session. At first, I planned to sell them at the market, but they're so big, I decided to keep them at home to make a delicious grilled snack instead." Being a bit absent-minded, Mr. 3 continued to think about something. Then, he suddenly exclaimed, "Oh no, I almost forgot to tell you something." "What is it? Why do you keep making me curious? Hurry up and tell me. I need to go home, shower, and eat." Mr. 3 began to tell Mr. 7 about an encounter he had related to Mr. Utt's garden. Before hearing what Mr. 3 told Mr. 7, let's learn a little about Mr. 3. When he was young, Mr. 3's family was very poor. He didn't have a good education, so he could only do manual labor more precisely. He was a jack of all trades, doing whatever people asked. Mr. 3 lived with his frail, elderly father, Uncle Nam. His mother had passed away long ago, leaving just the two of them. Mr. 3 was a filial son, but he hadn't yet found stable work to support his family. So, a kind neighbor introduced Mr. 3 to work for Mr. Utt, who was looking for someone to look after his garden. This was an opportunity Mr. 3 couldn't refuse. It would allow him to care for his father and make ends meet. Mr. Utt's family was well off, or rather, had inherited wealth. They were descendants of a wealthy landlord in the region, so their assets had been passed down through generations. Unfortunately for Mr. Utt, his son was a spendthrift. After losing a football betting spree and accumulating huge debts from loan sharks, the family was left with nothing. But fate gave Mr. Utt another chance to turn the tide. Out of pity for an old lottery ticket vendor, he bought all her remaining 12 tickets. The next day, after checking the results, he was stunned and couldn't believe it. He had won the grand prize on all 12 tickets. Thus, Mr. Utt's family became rich once more. After collecting the lottery winnings, his family decided to buy a large house in the district town and move there. The garden, adjacent to the fields, was now abandoned. This garden mainly grew various fruits, but because it was so far away, up in the district town, people frequently broke in to steal. That's why Mr. Utt needed someone to look after this plot of land and tend to the fruit trees. With the introduction from Kotha, the kind neighbor mentioned earlier, Mr. 3 found that the distance from his house to Mr. Utt's garden was short, and looking after the garden and fruit trees was not a difficult task for him. So, Mr. 3 decided to apply for the job of caretaker for Mr. Utt's garden to earn some extra money for living expenses and to care for his elderly father. However, there was one thing Mr. 3 would surely never expect. He was about to encounter a terrifying and shocking event right at his workplace, an event that began the moment he set foot in this garden. To facilitate managing the garden, Mr. 3 had set up a small hut made of dried coconut leaves in the middle of the garden. During the day, Mr. 3 would clear weeds around the garden, tidy up, and water the fruit trees. At night, he slept in that hut to guard it. Mr. 3 remembered Mr. Utt repeatedly warning him that he hated others trespassing and stealing, so he absolutely must not let anyone into his garden. Before leaving, Mr. Utt had also given Mr. 3 a strange and difficult-to-understand warning. "Hey, Mr. 3, there's a very wide ditch on this plot of land, the ditch right next to the rice field. Remember, absolutely no one is allowed to go down into it, and don't let anyone even come close to that area, got it?" Mr. 3, curious, asked. "Why, Uncle? Just listen to what I say. Why are you so inquisitive?" "Oh, please, Uncle, just tell me." "If you don't, I'll be so restless and uncomfortable. You know how curious I am, and everyone in this village knows it too. Please just tell me, I'm begging you, Uncle." After much pleading, Mr. Utt vaguely explained that the ditch was once a bomb crater, very deep and dangerous. "You see the shallow water on top, but underneath, I'm telling you, it's a very deep bomb crater. If you're not careful and fall in, you could easily die. It's no joke." Mr. 3 nodded, agreeing to follow Mr. Utt's warnings. After that conversation, Mr. 3 officially took the job of guarding Mr. Utt's garden. Mr. Utt's garden was quite extensive, growing many types of fruit trees, but at that time, pomelos were in season and valuable. So, most of the trees in his garden were pomelo trees, and these pomelo trees were nearing harvest season. The previous lottery win, combined with a bumper pomelo harvest, meant Mr. Utt became even wealthier. That's why he urgently needed someone to guard the garden, to keep out children and thieves. Because his garden was quite large, every time he went to water or fertilize the trees, Mr. 3 felt incredibly tired. Walking from one end of the garden to the other felt like his legs would give out. After a while, he finally finished watering all the fruit trees. Mr. 3 put down the water bucket and sat on the ground by the hut, resting. After sitting for a while, Mr. 3 noticed, far off at the end of the garden, a ditch. What was special about this ditch was that it was quite wide. This pond, adjacent to the field, was hidden behind a sago palm tree, surrounded by overgrown weeds. Although Mr. Utt had warned Mr. 3 not to go near this pond, human nature dictates that the more something is forbidden, the more it piques curiosity. Mr. 3 suddenly felt immensely curious about this ditch and decided to walk closer to observe it carefully. He thought that if he stood on the bank and looked down, there would be no danger. Mr. 3 rested for a bit longer, then stood up and walked closer. When he got near, pushing aside some sago palm branches, he saw a very dirty ditch. Although the water had no foul smell, its color was extremely murky. There was no sign of life on the surface, not even a few water hyacinths. Looking at the ditch for a long time, Mr. 3 thought to himself, Why is this ditch so wide, yet Uncle Ut doesn't use it for cultivation? He could use it to raise fish, for example. What a waste! Thinking this, Mr. 3 merely stood and observed. Now, he returned to the hut to prepare for his gardening tasks. Having only worked here for a few days, Mr. 3 hadn't encountered any unusual incidents. The days were normal and the work wasn't heavy. After finishing, he would rest, and during his free time in the day, he could run home to visit his ailing father for a bit. Occasionally, Mr. Ut would come to inspect or send someone else to check. The rest of the time, Mr. 3 was free to do as he pleased in the garden. One might say this garden had become like a second home to him. When harvesting fruit, Mr. 3 could eat as much as he liked, as long as he completed all his tasks. The only thing was that at night, he had to stay in the hut. For several nights, Mr. 3 couldn't sleep peacefully. Being naturally timid, he felt that sitting alone in the garden at night was cold, eerie, and a little scary. This night was another night Mr. 3 slept in the hut. The rustling wind and the incessant chirping of insects late at night, combined with the occasional hoot of an owl, made the space even more mysterious and gloomy. Wild cats prowled nearby in the darkness, hunting for prey. Occasionally, their cries would suddenly wake Mr. 3 up. After waking, it was difficult to fall back asleep. The small hut where Mr. 3 slept was made of dry, woven coconut leaves. Whenever the wind blew, it made a rustling sound that was truly ear-piercing. Mr. 3 lay curled up cold on a mat spread on the ground inside the hut. Only the small battery-powered lamp cast a flickering light. For a timid person like him, the night time spent alone in the fruit garden was the most terrifying time. But for the sake of survival, he had to endure it. Late at night, Mr. 3 lay in the hut. Moonlight shone through the gaps in the thatched roof. His eyes slowly closed, and he gradually drifted into sleep. In his hazy dream, the fruit garden transformed into a gloomy place with strange, distorted shadows cast by the trees. Suddenly, he saw the ghost of a woman standing there, guarding the garden, her face chilling and her smile enigmatic. She wanted to say something, but no sound came out, yet her voice echoed as if from another world. Mr. 3 was startled, feeling trapped between reality and dream. But the ghost merely shook her head. "There are some things not everyone should know," she whispered, her voice carrying a profound sadness. Suddenly, the space around him shifted, the trees twisted, and leaves fell like rain. As the ghost drew closer, her eyes turned icy cold. "If you want to understand, then understand." A scream echoed through the garden. Mr. 3 felt as if something was pulling him into the darkness. His voice retreated, unable to escape the ghost's pull. "No, I don't want anyone to tease me." But his own voice seemed swallowed by the echoing laughter. Like a strong wind, he was swept into another space. The ripe fruits turned into dark, rolling balls. He found himself unable to retreat, and the ghost still stood there, a haunting shadow in that bizarre dream. Just as Mr. 3 was about to find a way out from the ghost, the girl in his dream suddenly began to chase him. She moved as fast as the wind, her eyes glowing like fire. He felt his heart pounding fiercely, desperately searching for the ditch by the field. The ground beneath his feet deepened, making him lose his footing. The twisted trees around him seemed to be reaching out, pulling him back. He looked behind him and saw the ghost still close, like a shadow that would never stop pursuing him. "Run." "Hurry," he told himself, and his legs seemed to urge him to run faster. Finally, he reached the edge of the ditch where the water was clear, reflecting the bright moonlight. He stopped, panting, but the ghost still approached, her eyes holding no intention of stopping. "What do you want?" he cried out, his voice echoing in the quiet space. She stood there, her smile slowly fading, but her eyes seemed to reflect a deep, blaming sorrow. "I just want to tell you something." "I don't want you to repeat my mistake," she said with firm resolve. Suddenly, the ghost stopped, her gaze softening. In that dream, Mr. 3 felt himself confronting his own fear, trying to tame it to discover the hidden secrets of Mr. Ut's fruit garden. As he struggled to regain his composure, the ghost seemed to read his mind. And just as his fear reached its peak, he woke up in the hut, his heart pounding. The moonlight still shone, but the air felt heavy, making him feel as if he was still haunted by that strange dream. The next day, as usual, Mr. 3 continued his daily, repetitive tasks. Twice a day, at noon and in the afternoon, Mr. 3 had to carry 2 iron buckets to water the trees, drawing water from another small ditch in the garden, then going to each tree. This seemed very simple and light work, but carrying 2 buckets of water back and forth for an extended period could be exhausting. This made Mr. Three's arms and legs ache, especially after he had watered the trees at the front and middle of the garden. For the trees at the far end, he had to carry 2 buckets of water quite a distance to reach his destination. Although there was a ditch at the end of the garden, the very ditch Mr. Ut had warned him not to go near because of that warning, and because the water in the pond looked very dirty, Mr. Three, instead of drawing water from that ditch, had to go all the way to the front of the garden to draw from the other ditch. This afternoon, as usual, Mr. Three began his task of watering the garden. After watering for a while, covering about 3/4 of the garden, his arms felt utterly exhausted. And since that small ditch was quite far away, Mr. Three had a reckless and daring thought. He decided he would fetch water from the ditch by the field to water the rest of the trees, saving himself a long walk. This pond was in a low-lying area, so from the bank down to the water's surface, there was a somewhat steep slope, which was muddy all year round, making it slippery. Mr. Three began to carefully descend the slope, but despite his caution, he slipped and fell numerous times. He was just a hair's breadth away from tumbling headfirst into the pond. Each time he approached this ditch to get water, Mr. Three always felt an intense chill, as if someone in the ditch was watching his every move. Now that he could get water nearby, Mr. Three no longer felt tired from having to walk back and forth to the small ditch. After watering all the trees in the garden, Mr. Three, whether intentionally or accidentally, left the water bucket near that ditch. By this time, it was already dark. Mr. Three returned to his hut, the garden guard's shelter, and lit his lamp. The light from the battery was quite bright, illuminating a small area of the garden. Mr. Three was resting in the leaf hut amidst the fruit trees when he suddenly saw a faint white shadow pass through the trees. At first, he thought it was just an illusion caused by the light, but upon a closer look, he realized it was the image of a woman in a traditional ***. His heart began to pound. Curiosity and apprehension. The white shadow seemed to emanate an energy of anger. Being naturally timid, instead of thinking positively to forget his fear, he now remembered the stories his grandmother used to tell about restless, wronged spirits that often haunted abandoned areas. This made Mr. Three even more terrified than ever. The white shadow stopped by a mango tree, gently turned its head to look at him, and in that instant, he felt a strange connection. He couldn't clearly hear her words, but he felt as if he was paralyzed, unable to move. A moment later, the white shadow slowly faded and disappeared. Mr. Three sat there, filled with thoughts. He understood that this encounter was not just a strange phenomenon, but a sign, a reminder of something he himself did not yet know. After trying to reassure himself for a long time that he was simply overworked and hallucinating, that there were no such things as ghosts, deep down, he knew what he had just seen. He tried to compose himself once more, then lay down to catch some sleep after a long, tiring day. Mr. Three then lay down and saw another strange scene in his dream. He stood in the middle of Mr. Ut's garden, which was always filled with lush green fruit trees. Suddenly, a white shadow, identifiable as the ghost of the deceased girl, appeared. The girl stood by a tree, her face sorrowful but her eyes filled with urgency. In the dream, the girl softly said something, but the sound was indistinct. Only gentle winds blew, carrying whispers. The feeling in the dream was very real, and Mr. Three could feel the pain the girl carried in her heart. He wanted to help but didn't know how. Finally, she smiled faintly and slowly retreated into the darkness, leaving him with a strange sense of peace. The next morning, Mr. Three woke up and continued his work. He still fetched water from that ditch, despite Mr. Ut's earlier warning about its danger. Mr. Three felt there was nothing to the ditch. He thought Mr. Ut was simply exaggerating. After watering the garden, only a few wild guava trees remained. Being fond of guavas, Mr. Three decided to take a bucket down to the ditch to fetch water for these guava trees. While fetching water, Mr. Three noticed gurgling and splashing sounds on the water's surface, made by several fish. From his experience as a seasoned angler, Mr. Three knew these were very large snakehead fish. He decided that after finishing watering the garden, he would get his fishing rod and try to catch some. So, after finishing work and having some free time during lunchtime, Mr. Three went to the bamboo grove behind the garden to cut some small bamboo branches to make fishing rods. After making the rods, Mr. Three went out to the edge of the ditch, assembled them, and cast his lines. Mr. 3 wanted to see if there were really any big fish in that ditch, as he suspected, and also to pass the time when he was free. After a long wait, finally, a huge snakehead fish took the bait. Mr. 3 was overjoyed. He quickly pulled out his old phone and dialed Mr. Bin's number. "Hello, Bin. Come over to Mr. Utt's fruit garden. We're grilling snakehead fish." "All right, just a moment." Being enthusiastic and always ready for fun, Mr. Bin quickly ran home, put on a fresh shirt, and then drove straight to the fruit garden. Mr. 3 brought out the snakehead fish he had just caught, while Mr. Bin looked for some dry branches for grilling. They lit a fire, the flames crackling and mingling with the chirping of crickets, creating a joyful atmosphere. When the fish was grilled, Mr. Bin looked at the large fish with surprise, as he had been chatting and hadn't noticed its size earlier. "My goodness, this fish is huge. It's the first time I've seen such a big fish," Mr. Bin praised. Mr. 3 immediately replied, "That's right, I just caught it from that ditch out there. It put up a strong fight, I almost couldn't pull it up." Mr. Bin, helping to remove the charred skin of the fish, exclaimed, "Unbelievable, you actually caught it. This grilled fish is truly #1. Catching fish from the ditch always guarantees a good meal." Mr. Bin replied with great excitement. "All right, next time I'll go with you, okay? We're sure to catch even more big fish." They laughed heartily, enjoying the delicious food in the intimate and cozy atmosphere of Mr. Utt's fruit garden. As the snakehead fish turned golden and its aroma spread everywhere, they savored the sweet and rich grilled fish, dipping it in a mixture of salt, pepper, and lime. Occasionally, they refilled their wine glasses, chatting happily and sharing everyday stories. The once quiet fruit garden was no longer filled with the worries from yesterday's dream. Instead, it was replaced by beautiful memories. Both raised their glasses, wished each other good health, and cherished the peaceful moments. After a while, each returned home. The next morning, after finishing his work, Mr. 3 had some free time, so he sat fishing by the ditch again. Mr. 3 wanted to see if any fish would take his bait today. He often went fishing. It was his hobby to pass the time when he was free. But for some reason, today, ever since Mr. 3 started fishing, the ditch had been silent. No fish bit his hook. Mr. 3 tried changing his bait and his spot, but still caught nothing. Frustrated, Mr. 3 reeled in his line and went inside to continue his work. By this afternoon, when Mr. 3 went out to the pond to fetch water for the mulch, he was still annoyed that he hadn't caught any fish today. So, after watering the trees, Mr. 3 continued, bringing 4 or 5 small fishing rods to set around the ditch. Mr. 3 decided to leave the rods overnight to see if any fish would be caught by the next morning. Mr. 3 noticed that fish only started splashing around after dark. Do these fish only come out at night? Mr. 3 returned to the leaf hut, once again trying to get some sleep until the next morning. The next morning, Mr. 3, bubbling with excitement, rushed to the ditch to check, thinking that with such enticing bait, he'd surely catch 1, 2, or even 3 big fish like before. But as he approached the ditch, Mr. 3 witnessed a truly bizarre and perplexing sight. All the fishing rods he had planted along the bank had been pulled into the water, and something broken was floating on the surface. "Huh, I secured them so tightly, even a huge fish couldn't have done this. Someone must have sneaked into the garden last night to sabotage my fishing rods." Mr. 3 was furious, but he still made a few new rods and set them there again, hoping to catch the culprit. Feeling enraged, Mr. 3 returned to the hut to rest, weary, awaiting the results. Suddenly, an incredibly strong wind blew, as if coming straight from the fields, carrying a cold chill that made Mr. 3 uncomfortable. He lay curled up on his mat, the flickering lamp seemingly foretelling ominous events. It was getting late, but Mr. 3 couldn't stop thinking about the sabotaged fishing rods. It wasn't just that he couldn't catch fish, he was worried that he wasn't alone in this garden. But now that it was late, what could he do? As he lay there, he suddenly startled when he heard a strange sound. It sounded like temple bells echoing in the air, but there were no bells in this garden. Listening more closely, Mr. 3 realized it didn't quite sound like temple bells. Instead, it sounded like someone was tapping or hitting a metal bucket. Mr. 3 gasped. "It's that aluminum bucket I used to water the trees. That's it." The sound was coming from the far end of the garden, near the ditch, making Mr. 3 even more anxious. He slowly sat up and looked in that direction, but saw nothing but the pitch black of night. The tapping sounds didn't stop. In fact, they seemed to grow louder. Mr. 3 thought to himself, could someone actually be deliberately trying to cause trouble? Mr. 3 grabbed his flashlight and a makeshift club, then slowly walked towards the part of the garden where the tapping echoed. As he got closer, he called out loudly, "Who's still causing trouble at this hour? I'm telling you, Mr. Utt's garden is now guarded by me. It's not unguarded anymore. If you're here to mess around, get out before it's too late. If Mr. Utt finds out, you're dead." But the tapping continued, as if mocking him. Mr. 3 shone his light on the empty water buckets, which were still intact. He began to shine his light around, but there was absolutely no one. Mr. 3 muttered to himself, "It must be those mischievous kids from the village sneaking in. When someone came out, they got scared and ran away. Kids will be kids." Just as Mr. 3 was about to turn back, he suddenly heard a splash behind him. Remembering that he had set some fishing rods earlier, he readily walked towards the ditch. As he shone his light down onto the edge of the ditch, he was startled once again by a truly bizarre sight, something he had perhaps never seen in his life. The surface of the ditch was a thick, black mass of fish. Mr. 3 approached to see what kind of fish they were. Snakehead fish. They were all tightly packed, jostling on the water's surface, many of them even leaping. He had a strong feeling that the water's surface was putting on a fish circus for him. The snakehead fish from the pond kept surfacing, growing more numerous and dense, like a living spectacle right before Mr. 3's eyes. He couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't believe where all these fish had suddenly appeared in the ditch in such large numbers. This swarm of fish was remarkably tame, as if they knew no fear. They kept leaping and diving, repeating the action many times. Mr. 3 thought, "Perhaps fate is finally blessing me, since I haven't caught any fish these past few days. Now I've been given a whole school of huge snakehead fish. What luck." Mr. 3 thought happily to himself, then decided to go get the aluminum watering bucket he had left nearby. He picked up the bucket and went closer to the fish, ready to scoop them into the bucket. Mr. 3 moved even closer. Instead of disappearing like other fish, this school was strangely tame. They showed no fear. At this point, Mr. 3 could simply reach in and grab a few to put into his bucket. However, the night was exceptionally dark, perhaps due to impending rain clouds, making the space dim and gloomy. As he stepped down to catch the fish, he suddenly slipped and fell. The bucket he was holding flew out of his hand, hit the ground, and got dented. The flashlight also suffered the same fate, flying far away. The distance from the ground to the ditch bank was quite high, so Mr. 3 found that his bottom was a bit sore and blood seemed to be seeping from his pants. Mr. 3 tried to get up, using the flashlight that had fallen near the water's edge to shine into the ditch. He was surprised to see that there wasn't a single fish in the water. "Not one," he muttered in astonishment. "They were just here a moment ago, now they're all gone? How strange." Mr. 3 tried to shine his flashlight around, but saw no trace of any fish. He sighed and consoled himself. "Perhaps they all got scared and swam to the bottom when I fell." He glanced at the dented aluminum bucket, and an idea suddenly struck Mr. 3. He stood up, picked up the bucket, held it high, and turned towards the water. He used his hand to hit the bottom of the bucket hard, creating an incredibly piercing sound. After a moment of patience, indeed, many splashes appeared on the water's surface, indicating the movement of those giant fish from earlier, drawn by the sound. Now, even more fish surfaced than before, coming within a hand's reach of the bank. Mr. 3 was overjoyed. He thought to himself, "If I want to catch this whole school of enormous snakehead fish, this is the way to do it. I'm truly clever. I'm increasingly impressed by my own ingenuity." Mr. 3 laughed with delight. Mr. 3 happily stepped into the ditch. Naturally, at this moment, Mr. 3 had forgotten Mr. Utt's stern warning. As he began to step into the water, the fish quickly swam around him. Suddenly, his foot felt a sharp, stinging sensation. Mr. 3 quickly lifted his foot and discovered that a sharp object had pierced his calf without him realizing it. The pierced calf was bleeding. Strangely, the school of black fish then quickly swam around his bleeding leg. Mr. 3 was surprised. Could these fish be like sharks in the ocean, attracted to the smell of fresh blood? At this moment, Mr. 3 could clearly see each fish in the school. Each one was as big as his fist. What was special was that each fish had a raised bump on its head, like a small horn. The bodies of the fish were all large, long, and uniformly black. Mr. 3 felt as if the fish were circling his feet. Yes, he could feel this sensation very clearly. These fish were very tame, so Mr. 3 bravely tried reaching his hand into the water and easily picked up a few, putting them into the aluminum bucket. It must be said that these fish were very easy to catch. They showed no signs of resistance when caught. Mr. 3 continued to catch more. Not only were they not afraid, but they seemed to become even more numerous. The bucket now contained about 9 or 10 large fish. The bucket felt heavy in his hand, but Mr. 3 still wanted to catch more. He placed the bucket on the bank and put the flashlight next to it, shining downwards. This way, Mr. 3 could catch fish with his bare hands. The pond was now overflowing, but Mr. 3 then saw the biggest fish he had ever seen surface. Could this be the queen snakehead fish? This one looked plumper and longer than all the others, but its skin had a reddish hue. Mr. 3 slowly approached, swimming out towards the big fish. Knowing that he was swimming close to catch it, the fish remained calm, which made Mr. 3 swim deeper and deeper into the water without realizing it until the water reached his neck. It was only then that Mr. 3 was startled. He now felt the water in the pond was incredibly cold, chilling him to the bone. Suddenly, a strong wind blew from somewhere, causing the sago palm trees around the ditch to sway wildly in the silent night. This scene made Mr. 3 feel extremely apprehensive and fearful. Mr. 3 looked ahead. The big snakehead fish from earlier had dived down and disappeared. The other fish had also vanished at some point. Only Mr. 3 was left in the pond, isolated. Mr. 3 then began to hear soft giggling from the bank. It wasn't just one, but many giggles, coming from multiple directions at once. Mr. 3 couldn't see anything, but it seemed these mysterious entities were observing his fear. However, a moment later, the strong winds and the giggling stopped. But immediately after that, Mr. 3 was startled again when he saw 2 fish suddenly surface in the water near him. They were tearing and biting something frantically. Mr. 3 tried to look closely and was shocked to see a decaying human intestine floating on the water's surface. The fish around were fiercely tearing and devouring the rotten intestine. Filled with horror, Mr. 3 quickly turned to swim towards the shore and was startled yet again when he felt a decomposing human hand suddenly brush against his back. A putrid, sickening smell wafted up strongly. This attracted more fish from other places to fight over it. Mr. 3 immediately told himself, "This ditch is definitely not simple." Mr. 3 began to tremble all over. He struggled to escape the ditch and the fish, desperately trying to swim towards the bank. Behind him, he still clearly heard the echoing laughter of many people. Goodness gracious, what is happening? Fortunately, Mr. 3 was almost at the bank. He was both scared and cold. His legs started to cramp, making it impossible to swim, but he still had to try to escape this haunted ditch quickly. Finally, Mr. 3's feet touched the edge of the ditch. He was about to step onto the bank. It was then that Mr. 3 felt as if he had stepped on something beneath the water. As he scrambled onto the bank, Mr. 3 was about to let out a sigh of relief when, from the water, a decaying human head suddenly surfaced. Mr. 3 looked closely, and it was precisely a woman's head, in an advanced state of decomposition, black and skeletal. A foul odor wafted up to the bank, incredibly pungent. It was as if Mr. 3 had just stepped on it. Now, his leg felt like it wanted to recoil in fear. Mr. 3 screamed, frantically scrambling onto the bank. The fish outside were frantically swarming to the head, tearing at it. It was truly horrific and disgusting. Mr. 3, terrified, stumbled blindly into the garden and ran straight home in the night. The next morning, Mr. 3 met Mr. Ut to recount everything that had happened. After listening, Mr. Ut tried to hide his surprise because he had warned Mr. 3 very carefully. Worried, Mr. Ut asked Mr. 3 to go with him to the ditch to investigate. It was daytime, so the ditch had returned to its normal, peaceful, and calm state. Mr. 3, with his flashlight in hand, waded barefoot into the water, feeling the chilling cold. He silently searched for fish. The quiet made every sound clear. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through, making his hair stand on end. He turned around but saw only darkness. As he tried to reach for a fish, the flashlight beam hit the water, revealing the image of a woman in a white asterisk Audi asterisk standing silently on the bank. His heart pounded. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling and breaking. The ghost only looked at him, her eyes filled with profound sadness, as if telling a heartbreaking story. Suddenly, she raised her hand, and in that instant, a strong gust of wind stirred the water. As Mr. 3 tried to approach, the ghost vanished, leaving only a wisp of white smoke lingering in the air. Fear, curiosity, and doubt intertwined within him. He stood silently in the ditch, wondering if what he had just seen was real. Mr. 3 saw the aluminum bucket he had used to catch fish last night still on the bank. He led Mr. Ut to show him, but when they got closer, to their surprise, looking inside, it was filled only with mud and tree branches. There was absolutely no fish, nothing like what Mr. 3 had seen. Mr. Ut looked at Mr. 3, hesitant, then recounted the horrifying story of this ditch. This pond was indeed used by Mr. Ut to raise fish in the past, but Mr. Ut asserted that he had only put a few snakehead fish into the pond. There couldn't have been as many fish as Mr. 3 had seen. Later, Mr. Ut became lazy about maintaining it, so the water in the pond became increasingly dirty. Mr. Ut believed all the fish in it had died, so he left the pond abandoned for a long time. In the past, when he didn't hire a caretaker, Mr. Ut would occasionally return to visit the garden. He remembered that several years ago, during the rice harvest season, he visited the garden as usual. But when he went to the pond, he was utterly horrified to discover the body of a girl, about 23 years old, floating on the water of his pond. The body was heavily decomposed and seemed to have been dead there for several days. When he found it, he saw a school of fish tearing at the body, but there were only a few, not many. That's when he realized there were still fish in this pond. Mr. Ut called the police. After their investigation, they confirmed that the body might belong to one of the people who used to sneak in to steal and harvest fruit. Mr. Ut's house had many delicious fruits, and without a caretaker, people often broke in to steal and pick fruit. They probably intended to pick a lot to sell, but somehow, she slipped and fell into the ditch. Perhaps she couldn't swim, so she drowned and died. No one knew for 3 or 4 days until Mr. Ut discovered it. The incident was truly heartbreaking. One couldn't help but feel sorry for the girl, but who was to blame now? It was clearly someone else's garden, and she broke in to steal, only to meet such a fate. After that incident, it was supposed to be a cautionary tale for those who like to trespass and cause trouble. Yet, surprisingly, people still occasionally came into the garden to steal a few trees. That's why Mr. Ut had sought a caretaker, partly out of fear that someone else might fall into the ditch by the field. But he never expected that today, Mr. 3 almost got into trouble. It seemed the wronged spirit of that woman still lingered by the ditch. The fish Mr. 3 saw yesterday might have been ghost fish, or simply the female ghost herself teasing him. Luckily, Mr. 3 was still fortunate enough to escape. After hearing Mr. Ut's story, Mr. 3 felt even more chilled and terrified by the truth. From that day on, Mr. 3 resigned from his job at the fruit garden. Mr. Ut couldn't find anyone else to replace him, so he simply fenced off the ditch. Mr. 3 knew that Mr. Ut himself wouldn't dare go near the pond where fish had once fed on a human body. From then on, Mr. Ut continued to abandon the fruit garden, making the garden and that ditch even gloomier. Yet surprisingly, today, a neighbor of Mr. 3, a man named Min, had been audacious enough to sneak into the garden to steal fruit and fish in the pond. After fishing, he brought his catch to show Mr. 3. When Mr. 3 saw the big fish, he was startled and got goosebumps, for they truly resembled the fish Mr. 3 had encountered in the haunted ditch not long ago. Not long after Mr. 3 had a strange dream, rumors about the ghost of the girl by the ditch in Mr. Ut's fruit garden began to spread throughout the village. Those who went out at night frequently felt an odd presence, and not a few times they stopped, their hearts pounding, as they saw a fleeting white figure in the dark. Every night, as farmers returned from the fields, both the elderly and the young whispered about encountering the ghost. They recounted that when near the ditch, a cold wind would suddenly blow, and chilling laughter would echo in the silent space, making everyone shudder. The ghost of the girl would appear with bright eyes and a face that was both sad and mysterious, striking fear into everyone. "Everyone says they've seen her lately. I've never seen such a terrifying ghost before," said Mr. High, a farmer, his voice trembling as he spoke beside Ms. Nom. Ms. Nom then nodded gently. "That ghost might not be evil, but why does she appear in the middle of the night? We need to be careful." As such stories were spun, each time adding a bit more suspense, Mr. 3 realized that the girl was not evil, but perhaps carried a profound sorrow. "Perhaps we need to talk to each other," he said with determination. At that moment, he was not just a passerby, but potentially a bridge to help the villagers understand more about the mysterious ghost in Mr. Ut's fruit garden. One morning, in the somber atmosphere of the countryside, many villagers gathered at Mr. Ut's house, bustling with talk about the ghost of the girl appearing by the ditch. Everyone felt worried. Stories about the chilling laughter and mysterious images of the girl were repeatedly recounted, creating a tense atmosphere. Everyone was afraid to pass by Mr. Utt's garden. An elderly man spoke up, "I think you should invite a geomancer to resolve this matter." "We can't let that spirit keep disturbing us forever." Mr. Utt, hearing the complaints, felt hesitant. He was a man who valued his reputation, but he couldn't deny that the appearance of ghosts had caused much trouble for the villagers. However, he didn't put much faith in geomancers, so Mr. Utt said to everyone, "What can a geomancer possibly do?" He sighed, looking out at the garden where the trees swayed in the wind. "You must understand, perhaps the girl needs something, or she has a reason why she cannot rest in peace," neighbor Ms. Ba advised. "Invite a master, at least to perform a ceremony for the peace of mind of everyone. We can't let this fear linger forever." After much thought, Mr. Utt decided to follow the villagers' advice. He called a renowned geomancer in the area, Master A, to come and perform a ritual. When this news spread, a wave of relief swept through the village. Everyone hoped that the geomancer would banish the ghost and bring peace back to the fruit garden and their lives. The appointed day arrived. The geomancer came to Mr. Utt's garden with an air of solemn dignity, holding the necessary ritual objects. He began the ceremony, chanting spells, and everyone watched intently with eager eyes. As the geomancer stepped towards the ditch, the atmosphere grew heavy. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. In the tense atmosphere of the ritual, the geomancer stood in the middle of the ditch. The lantern's light illuminated his stern face. The surrounding villagers were silent, nervously waiting to see what would happen next. The scene became still, with only the rustling of the wind and the gentle lapping of waves against the bank. The geomancer began with complex incantations, drawing symbols on the ground with colored powder. Simultaneously, he clapped his hands and called upon the girl's spirit. "If you are still here, manifest before us. Return from the darkness so we may understand what troubles you." As these incantations echoed, the air around the ditch suddenly turned cold, making everyone shiver. A faint mist began to rise from the ditch, intertwining like ghostly arms. The flickering light from the lantern created eerie, illusory images. Suddenly, from within the mist, the vague figure of the ghost slowly appeared. She wore a white dress, her hair flowing down, her deep-set eyes gazing at everyone. A gentle laugh echoed, but it was a sorrowful laugh that made the atmosphere heavy. "What do you want?" the geomancer asked, his voice deep and resolute. The ghost looked directly at him, her face complex with sorrow and expectation. "I don't want to disturb anyone, but I am sad." The surrounding villagers' hearts pounded. They had never imagined a ghost could speak, and her words filled them with a strange sadness. "Why don't you reincarnate? Why stay here, constantly appearing and reminding everyone, making them unable to eat or sleep?" the girl asked, mocking the geomancer. The geomancer sneered and said, "If you're smart, listen to me and reincarnate. If you don't listen, then you won't reincarnate." Immediately, the atmosphere grew tense. The ghost spread her arms, and tendrils of mist began to swirl around the geomancer, as if trying to engulf him in darkness. But the geomancer would not yield. He steadfastly waved his hands, and radiant spells created shimmering images. The geomancer then gently said, "Listen to me. I don't want to fight you, for it will only harm you." After much earnest explanation to the ghost, she finally agreed to follow the path of enlightenment and await reincarnation. The surrounding worries then gradually dissipated. Finally, the ghost in Mr. Utt's fruit garden was dealt with. People felt more at ease, no longer disturbed by the ghost haunting the garden at night. After the ceremony concluded, the atmosphere in the fruit garden became lighthearted. Ms. Tam, a neighbor known for her enthusiasm, decided to represent the villagers and invited the geomancer to stay for a vegetarian meal. She approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Master, thank you for helping us today. What you did not only freed the girl but also brought peace to our entire village," Ms. Tam said warmly. The geomancer smiled and nodded. "I only did what I could. Please don't be so formal. Master A, please stay and share a vegetarian meal with us," Ms. Tam continued. "I have prepared a vegetarian feast to thank you." She gestured towards her house, where a simple but delicious vegetarian meal had been prepared, with traditional dishes, various vegetables, and fresh, tasty fruits. The geomancer thought for a moment, then agreed. "Thank you, Ms. Tam and all the villagers." That day, everyone in the village was excited and quickly prepared for the vegetarian banquet. The atmosphere became bustling with laughter and conversations. Ms. Tam and the villagers carefully set the table with food, wanting to create a meaningful meal. When the vegetarian feast was served, everyone gathered together to enjoy the food. The geomancer shared stories about spiritual matters and the meaning of a vegetarian meal, which everyone listened to attentively. After eating, Ms. Tam stood up and raised a glass of water, and everyone joined her in draining their cups. Greed is the deepest evil in life. This saying held a profound lesson about the consequences of greed. When people only seek their own benefit without considering others, they can fall into traps of their own making. Greed can lead to loneliness, loss, and even more severe consequences. "Don't be like the girl in the story," she said. Just because she wanted to eat and sell the fruits from someone else's garden, she unfortunately slipped and fell into the ditch, then drowned and died, becoming a wandering ghost, causing trouble for many years. It was truly not worth it at all.